He's got a gun! Right here. Suspect is now northbound. He cracked up. Joe.
Deputies responding to reports of shots fired had no idea they were dealing with a serial killer. The first victim, Takemesha Scott, found dead in her motel room. The second, Sequoia Bryce, shot outside her apartment. The third, Cheryl Carter, killed on her own doorstep, all connected by one man, a father of 12 who turned his gun on his own family.
And I can't be saved. I'm about to get on this Grey Goose and orange juice. I'm gonna get you keep your head on the floor.
Hey, you gotta cut the heat down?
Man, I don't even know where your heat at. I don't stay here. How the hell I'm gonna touch something if I don't stay here?
Hey, thank you for joining us tonight. 3 women were murdered in a shooting spree in Manatee County.
And the man responsible killed in a shootout with deputies near the Florida-Georgia line. The shootings happened in 3 different locations in Palmetto, Bradenton, and outside city limits in Manatee County.
News Channel 8's Marilyn Parker joining us live tonight in Manatee County with an update on the story. Marilyn.
Well, this is where the shooting spree started, and right before that, there were concerning posts on Facebook from Javvante Bryce's account, and investigators say it's going to be an important part of figuring out the motive.
Disturbing social media posts from the man deputies accused of killing his mother, cousin, and another woman Monday night.
He knew exactly who he wanted to kill, and he did not have a hard time locating them.
The sheriff says what 28-year-old Javvante Bryce put on Facebook will be important in their investigation. At 8:53, he posted love, and shortly after 9, deputies say he shot and killed his mother, Takemesha Scott, at a Motel 6. At 9:36, Bryce posts, "I love you, bae," tagged his cousin, then said, "See you in," expletive. 4 minutes later, deputies were called to a shooting in Palmetto where they found Bryce's cousin, Sequoia Bryce, shot in an SUV. She later died. Kimberly Welcome Williams with the Hope Family Services says these posts are all red flags and should alert people everywhere.
Don't stay quiet. Speak up. Reach out. Help your friends and family.
I spoke with the man at the Palmetto shooting location, and he was in tears. He asked right now for prayers and for privacy, considering the fact that they have the kids to worry about. And if you or anyone you know is in a domestic violence situation, we have resources listed on our website, WFLA.com, right now.
The Manatee County Sheriff's Office would later reveal the chilling truth about 28-year-old Javvante Bryce.
Before I get started, I really want to show you the killer himself, the one that is responsible for 3 homicides in Manatee County last night. His name is Javvante Bryce. He is 28 years of age. He is the one that went on a killing spree last night in Manatee County.
He wasn't just a killer Meyer, he was documenting each murder on social media as he moved from victim to victim.
Life is so beautiful. And what makes it so beautiful is when you look me in my eyes and you told me that you love me. And I lied and told you I accept that love. But truth is, I cannot accept love because I am a broken man. I'm more broken than a total car without the help of a tow truck. I asked the Lord to remold me, rebuild me, reaccept me. But the Lord told me he had to have a conversation with the devil before approval. So what do you think I look like to society? Society laugh at me. Society joke about me. So when I walk this earth, I'm laughed at. Laughed at from the deaf, from the blind, from the weak and the broken. So when you look at me, just please accept me for who I am. Because if you cannot accept me, what's life?
This is the story of how a son became a family annihilator, and how investigators pieced together a killing spree that shocked the community of Bradenton, Florida.
People yelling, screaming,
He shot my mom, somebody call 911.
Before we continue, if real-life family crime grips you, hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and smash subscribe with the bell so you never miss a new case on Fatal Family Network. Javvante Bryce appeared to have it all figured out. Star athlete at King Senior High in Tampa, full scholarship to Minnesota State University, then Savannah State where he continued running track. At 28, he was the father of 12 children with different women. His social media told the story of a devoted dad. Videos playing with his kids,
the butterfly, that's old, let me see the tips roll. Yeah, 1994.
Motivational posts about pushing through hard times.
My sadness grows as my trust fades away in the midnight dust. My love is enveloped, yearning for hope from the angels who dance freely in waters of the oceans when sunset sets. Morning dew turns into frozen dew due to the bees running out of honeydew. Butterflies becoming angry due to the decreasing of dragonflies. I adorn the ornament of life until life stings like a hornet. Now my madness sings like a hurricane. My heart and brain filled with trauma and pain.
To anyone scrolling through his feed, Javvante looked like a man who had his priorities straight, but his family knew differently. Tisha Scott, his 48-year-old mother, had been forced to make an impossible decision earlier that year. She moved herself, her boyfriend, and her 2 youngest daughters into a Motel 6. The reason? She could no longer safely live with her own son. Javvante had been prescribed medication for mental health issues, but he refused to take it consistently. There had been multiple arrests for domestic violence. A risk protection order had temporarily stripped him of his firearms, though that order had since expired. The man posting inspirational quotes online was the same man his mother feared enough to leave her own home. But the real story was in what Javvante was posting when he thought nobody was paying attention. Dark, rambling messages about being broken, about society laughing at him, about feeling trapped.
But the Lord told me he had to have a conversation with the devil before approval. So what do you think I look like to society? Society laugh at me. Society joke about me.
These weren't just emotional outbursts, they were warning signs that everyone around him failed to recognize. Family members would later tell investigators they suspected Javvante was hiding something about his sexuality. Rumors circulated that he was living a double life, maintaining relationships with men while trying to project an image as a ladies' man and devoted father. Whether those rumors were true didn't matter. What mattered was that Javvante believed people were talking about him, judging him, threatening to expose secrets he wasn't ready to share. The relationships with his children's mothers had completely broken down. Several had cut off his access to his kids, demanding he prove his mental stability before they would allow unsupervised visits. For a man whose entire identity revolved around being a father, this was devastating.
What's up, nigga? Say what's up. I said what's up.
Court records show a pattern of domestic violence charges and mental health crises. He had been Baker acted, involuntarily committed for psychiatric evaluation multiple times, or yet somehow, he had managed to regain access to firearms. Then there was his cousin, 29-year-old Sequoia Bryce. Family members would later tell investigators they suspected the two had been involved in a secret relationship. Whether romantic or not, she knew things about Javvante that he couldn't afford to have exposed. In the weeks leading up to the murders, his social media activity became increasingly erratic. Posts about being broken, about society laughing at him, about feeling abandoned by everyone he loved. Friends who knew him from his college days barely recognized the man behind these dark messages. The mother who had raised him was living in a motel to avoid him. The women who bore his children had restricted his access to them. His cousin allegedly knew secrets that could destroy whatever reputation he had left. For Javvante Bryce, the walls were closing in, and when cornered animals feel trapped, they often lash out at whatever they perceive as the source of their pain. On the evening of June 25th, those perceived threats would become targets, and Javvante Bryce would transform from a troubled father into a family killer who documented his crimes in real time. The first call came from the Palomino Trace apartments in Palmetto just after 9 that evening. A woman was reporting that her brother had just threatened someone with a gun. When deputies arrived, they found Javvante's sister shaken but alive. She told them what happened. Javvante had walked straight into her apartment where one of his ex-girlfriends was visiting. He looked directly at the woman and said 5 words that would haunt everyone who heard them: "I have to kill you." His sister somehow managed to talk him down. She convinced him to leave without pulling the trigger. The woman was still breathing when police arrived, but Javvante was already gone. Deputies had no idea they were dealing with a man who had just decided to eliminate everyone he believed had wronged him. Within minutes he was driving toward the Motel 6 where his mother was staying. Tatimisha Scott was in room 237 with her boyfriend and her 2 youngest daughters when her eldest son knocked on the door. She let him in. Why wouldn't she? He was her child. Even after everything they'd been through, even after she'd been forced to move out of her own home to escape his instability, she still opened that door. Javvante walked into the room and looked at his mother. The woman who had raised him, who had tried to help him through his mental health struggles, who had given him chance after chance. He said 2 words: "I'm sorry." Tatimisha asked the question any mother would ask: "What did you do?" She never got an answer. Javvante raised his gun and fired 3 shots. His mother died instantly in front of her boyfriend and 2 young daughters. The children who witnessed their brother murder their mother in that motel room would carry that trauma for the rest of their lives. But for Javvante, this wasn't an emotional breakdown. This was the beginning of a planned execution list. Within minutes of killing his mother, he pulled out his phone and posted on Facebook, "Love," followed by a heart emoji. Think about that for a moment. This man had just murdered the woman who brought him into this world, and his immediate reaction was to log onto social media and post about love. The disconnection from reality was complete. Investigators would later piece together his movements. From the motel, he drove straight to his next target. Sequoia Bryce was outside her apartment on 26th Street East, getting ready to leave a casual gathering. She was walking to her car when Javvante pulled up. Family members had been at a cookout. People were still around, but that didn't stop him. Sequoia saw him coming. Whether she tried to run or tried to reason with him, we'll never know. What we do know is that Javvante shot his own cousin in that parking lot and left her bleeding on the asphalt. As Sequoia fought for her life, rushed to the hospital where she would die within the hour, Javvante was already posting again. This time his Facebook status read, "I love you BAE, Sequoia Bryce, see you in hell." The investigation would later reveal what family members suspected, that Javvante and Sequoia had been involved in some kind of intimate relationship. Whether she had threatened to expose his secrets or simply knew too much about his private life, she had become a liability in his mind. 2 women dead, 1 hour elapsed, but Javvante wasn't finished. His next destination was 51st Street East in Bradenton. Cheryl Carter lived there with her new partner. Friends called her Pig, and she was known in the neighborhood as a devoted mother who adored her children. She was also one of Javvante's ex-girlfriends and the mother of one of his 12 kids. When Cheryl answered her door that night, she was looking at the father of her child. Someone she had trusted enough to create a life with, someone who should have been focused on co-parenting, not killing. The details of what happened next are as simple as they are horrifying. Javvante shot Cheryl Carter on her own doorstep and left her to die outside the home where she should have been safe. His Facebook post came quickly. "Pig, I love you but you had to go." 3 women, 3 murders, 3 social media posts documenting each kill, all within 2 hours. The Manatee County Sheriff's Office was now dealing with something they had never seen before. A family annihilator who was broadcasting his crimes in real time. Deputies were racing between crime scenes, trying to piece together a pattern while the killer was already moving toward his next target. Family members were calling police, warning them that Javvante was likely heading north to Georgia. There was another ex-girlfriend there, and everyone feared she would be next on his list. The clock was ticking, and investigators knew they were in a race against time to stop him before he claimed a 4th victim. The statewide Bulo alert went out immediately. Every law enforcement agency in Florida was now looking for Javvante Bryce. His photograph, his vehicle description, his last known direction of travel, everything was broadcast across multiple counties. What they didn't know was that Javvante had someone with him. A woman was in his car as he fled toward the Georgia border. Whether she was there willingly or had been taken against her will would become another piece of this puzzle that investigators would have to solve. As Javvante drove north on Interstate 75, he left behind 3 crime scenes, multiple traumatized children, and devastated families. His mother would never see another sunrise. His cousin would never hug her own children again. His ex-girlfriend would never answer her door again. But this killing spree wasn't over yet. The final confrontation was still hours away, and it would happen at a gas station near the state line where Hamilton County deputies were waiting. While Javvante Bryce was driving north toward Georgia, investigators were working frantically to piece together the scope of what they were dealing with. 3 separate crime scenes, 3 dead women, and a killer who was documenting his murders on social media in real time. The Facebook posts became crucial evidence. Not only did they provide timestamps that helped investigators track his movements, but they revealed something chilling about Javvante's state of mind. This wasn't a man acting in a fit of rage. These posts showed planning, awareness, and a complete disconnect from the gravity of what he had done. Detectives were interviewing witnesses at each location. The sister who had talked him out of killing his first intended victim. The boyfriend who watched helplessly as Javvante murdered his mother. The family members who were at the cookout when Sequoia was shot. Each witness provided another piece of the timeline. But the most disturbing evidence was coming from Javvante's own digital footprint. His phone was pinging cell towers as he moved north, and every Facebook post was being timestamped and geotagged. He was essentially providing investigators with a roadmap of his killing spree. Family members were calling police with warnings about where he might be headed next. They knew about an ex-girlfriend in Georgia, and everyone feared she would become victim number 4. The woman traveling with Javvante added another layer of urgency. Was she in danger? Had she been taken against her will? Hamilton County Sheriff's deputies were already positioned along Interstate 75, watching for his vehicle. Every gas station, every rest stop, every exit ramp was being monitored. The net was closing, but would they find him before he reached his next target? Just after 1:30 in the morning, nearly 4 hours after the killing spree began, Hamilton County deputies spotted Javvante's car at an Exxon station near the Georgia border. This was it moment that would determine whether a 4th life would be lost. Deputies approached carefully. They knew they were dealing with a man who had already killed 3 people and had nothing left to lose. As they closed in, Javvante got out of his vehicle and immediately opened fire. The shootout was brief but intense. Deputies returned fire, and Javvante Bryce was killed at that gas station parking lot. The woman who had been traveling with him was unharmed and was not charged with any crimes. Investigators never fully explained whether she had been held against her will or was there voluntarily. The killing spree that had terrorized 3 communities was finally over, but the damage had already been done. 3 families were destroyed, multiple children were left without mothers, and an entire community was left searching for answers. With Javvante dead, there would be no trial, no chance for families to hear him explain his actions or show remorse. The case was closed from a legal standpoint, but the questions it raised would linger for years. Investigators spent months analyzing his social media history, interviewing family members, and trying to understand what had driven him to kill the people closest to him. The pattern that emerged was complex but familiar to experts in family violence. Mental health issues that went untreated, a history of domestic violence that escalated over time, access to firearms despite previous risk assessments, and possibly most importantly, a series of perceived rejections and betrayals that he interpreted as threats to his identity. The children left behind became the true victims of this case. Tidamisha Scott's youngest daughters witnessed their brother murder their mother. Sequoia's children lost their mother, and with their father already deceased, they became orphans. Cheryl Carter's kids lost a parent who should have been protected by the father of one of those children. The community of Bradenton was forced to confront uncomfortable questions about warning signs and intervention. Javvante's disturbing social media posts had been visible to anyone who cared to look. His history of domestic violence was documented in court records. His mental health struggles were known to family members, yet somehow all of these red flags failed to prevent 3 murders. The case highlighted gaps in the system, the difficulty of involuntarily committing someone who appears functional on the surface, the challenges of keeping firearms away from people with histories of violence, and the tragic reality that sometimes family members are the most dangerous people in someone's life. Mental health advocates use this case to push for better crisis intervention programs. Domestic violence experts pointed to it as an example of how emotional abuse and control can escalate to lethal violence. Gun safety advocates questioned how someone with Javvante's history had regained access to firearms, but perhaps the most important lesson was simpler and more heartbreaking. Sometimes the people we love, the people we trust, the people who are supposed to protect us, become the very people we need protection from. Tidamisha Scott opened her motel room door because Javvante was her son. Sequoia didn't run when she saw him approaching because he was family. Cheryl answered her door because he was the father of her child. The trust that should exist between family members became the weapon he used against them. And in the end, 3 women died not because they failed to recognize danger but because they couldn't imagine that someone they loved was capable of killing them. The case of Javvante Bryce serves as a reminder that domestic violence doesn't always happen behind closed doors. Sometimes it explodes into public view in the most devastating way possible, and when it does, the ripple effects destroy not just the immediate victims, but entire networks of family, friends, and communities who are left to pick up the pieces. 3 women lost their lives, multiple children lost their mothers, and all of us lost a little more faith in the idea that family is always safe, that love always protects, and that the people closest to us would never be the ones to hurt us most. Family should be a refuge, but even the closest ties can fracture. Stay alert, look out for one another, and reach out if you sense danger. See you in the next story here on Fatal Family Network. Thanks for watching.